It's obvious that you listen to this show to hear about and support other people's dreams. But what about yours? What is your dream project? I'm here to help you break through whatever is in the way of your dreams and get you to the finish line. Go to dreamingbigcoaching.com today and take the first step. Literally, it's a button you can click to sign up for a free consultation with me. Let's find out if I can help you reach your goal. Click on Take the First Step. It's that simple to start the rest of your life. Get coached by Rob Southgate at dreamingbigcoaching.com. Welcome back again to Go Fund This, the podcast where you find out about the coolest crowdfunding campaigns that are out there. I'm your host, Rob Southgate, and today I'm joined by Scott Ford to talk about his Kickstarter for the 3D sci-fi graphic novel Hologram Hunter. Scott, welcome to Go Fund This. We're back to comics, which I love. I've been doing a lot of movies lately, so welcome. I've got my comic people in the house.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'll get the business part of it up front, and then we'll go into you and who you are.
Sure.
This is a Kickstarter. It's for Hologram Hunter 3D, a sci-fi graphic novel.
Yeah.
The amount that you're looking for is 3,000 Canadian, which we just did the conversion on it, is 2,267.60 US. They'll probably round it up. So there you go. Now we know what the conversion is. Very doable amount for a comic book. The Kickstarter starts, well, as of time of recording, tomorrow, which will be the day this airs, which is June 16th, which is Friday.
At 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. And it goes for 32 days. So I am not telling people to wait. I'm telling you, get in early, jump in that first 48 hours so that Scott knows, okay, this thing is going to happen and this thing has legs. There's nothing worse than everything coming in the final 48 hours. I'm telling you, I've lived a 30-day heart attack waiting. The other thing is I've also seen that, and I did it myself, canceled a Kickstarter because it didn't seem like we'd hit it. And then I get all these emails afterwards. Oh, I was going to donate at the end. Don't do that.
Yeah. Jump
in now. It's live. At the time of this recording, it's not. So there might be some changes between now and then, but tiers are not going to change. And we're going to get into that. So why don't we start things off? And also everything's in the show notes. So you can go to Kickstarter and look up Hologram Hunter, or go to the show notes. The link is right there. All right, Scott, why don't you tell people who you are and what you do?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a indie comic creator based out of Winnipeg, Canada. I've been making comics for over a decade now. I love making art and comics. I'm a solo creator, so I do all the writing and art, and I usually self-publish, and it's all just kind of me. And Hologram Hunter is my latest kind of experimental graphic novel. I like to experiment a lot with each of my books. And so this is half of the book is illustrated in like old school 3D red and blue glasses 3D.
Yeah, cool.
So it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And finally with this project, with enough experimenting and developing, the story behind it, it finally came together. And I'm really excited to let this see the light of day and get it into people's hands.
I want to say up front something really cool. I'm looking on here, and you've got a thing where the first 15 backers get 2 free buttons.
Yes.
Oh my God, those 3D buttons are the coolest.
Thank you. Yeah.
Those are fantastic, man.
It's it's like a flat pinback button, but if you look at it with 3D glasses, it pops out at you a bit.
I love the images on them, and you can see because it's got the red and the blue, and I'm like, oh, that's a layup right there. And anybody who's cosplaying Doctor Who at the cons, and hey, you walk up and you've got that button on, they're going to have the 3D glasses on. Go like, yeah,
that's right.
So very cool.
Thank you.
So Scott, can you describe like the story, what the comic's about? Talk about the project a little bit too. Like how many pages and what do you got going here?
Yeah. So it's a It's a medium to smaller size one-off graphic novel. It's about the full story is about 65 pages, and then the book itself is probably going to be about 72 plus pages because I want an extra section in there with like my process, because the process of making this book was so unique. I wanted to show that with like a sketchbook section in the back.
Cool.
But yeah, it's a standalone kind of experiment. It's very atmospheric. The main character doesn't even have a name. You're following this hooded figure and the robotic companion as they're navigating this strange, desolate city. And they're around each corner, there's like hints of this mechanical parasite that's kind of lurking around the corner. And so when it transitions into 3D is when he has to enter the sort of virtual hive mind of these creatures to find the source of this infestation that's happening. But yeah, it's steeped in a lot of mystery. I didn't want to answer a lot of questions so much as provoke them of what is this world, and let the reader kind of conjure up their own kind of spin on what this universe is based on this small slice, this glimpse into it. I love animated short films, sci-fi animated short films that really just that let you peek into this world and let your imagination run wild with what is this universe? This is so creative. This looks so strange. What is happening here? And then you're pulled out of it, and you're wondering sort of the scope of it all. The main reason for doing it a bit shorter was because it's an experimenting with this 3D style is, it's a proof of concept, I guess.
Sure.
And I did some tests early on, and I talked to some folks because reading a book in 3D with 3D glasses, there is some eye strain in there over a prolonged reading. And so I wanted to nail the correct length so that it still was comfortable and enjoyable without, oh my goodness, this is a 400-page book where I have to read 3D glasses the whole time and I'm getting a headache. I didn't want that.
Right.
So it is this experiment. I'm excited to see what people think of it.
Well, it's funny. I just noticed in my garage, I was cleaning some things out, and I found a few odd size comics that I had, and there was a Batman 3D book.
Oh, cool.
And it was, I pulled up the glasses and looked, and I was like, yeah, this is really cool. It was kind of at the beginning of when they were trying to use computers in the comics world. Your stuff looks way cooler. It's an evolution of that,
Okay.
Even though it was Batman, the Batman stuff, was cool, but this,
I'm going to quote you on that. You said my book's cooler than Batman.
Yeah, put that out there, man. But it didn't do when I'm watching your video here and I'm seeing what you're doing with the 3D, right? It's like it's revealing things. That was something that the 3D Batman didn't do that I was looking for. So as soon as I'm looking at your thing, I'm like, oh, that's what was missing there. That's why it didn't connect for me the way I wanted it to, even though it was Batman and it was a good story. Mm-hmm. This is something I really want to check out. This is cool.
Thank you. Well, I think with a lot of, I'm not sure about all 3D comics, but with a lot of 3D comics that I've seen, and it might be the case with the one you're describing, is it's still 2D illustration. It's flat illustration that has then been kind of extruded like cardboard cutout layers.
Right.
It's just kind of flat layers that are popping out in front of you. Whereas in this book, I'm building it in a 3D as a 3D model. This is a 3D constructed world, that I sculpted using 3D programming. And when I was experimenting with this early on and discovered that, you can kind of just set up your scene and then take these two kind of viewpoints from the scene, and it just brings the depth to it. It's not just cardboard cutouts that are floating on top of one another like flat layers. There's spherical sort of forms that you can feel those curves. There's these angled walls where you can feel the angle of it. It's not just sort of flat back there.
Right. It's got depth to it. Yeah, I totally see it, even in this little bit of video.
Yeah. I like building sets. I I think about comics in a very sort of filmic language, of making sets, staging scenes, and then moving a camera around that scene. And so the opportunity to show those scenes as places with depth that you feel like you can fall into the page, I thought is just like, this is incredible. I have to do something with this. And I didn't look up any tutorials or anything. Like, I just kind of was messing around and discovered this on my own. And it's very cool when you find something like that of like, this is amazing, I have to try this.
Yeah. Well, anyone that listens to some of my other shows know that I'm into the indie stuff. I have a show called Alley Chats where I talk to people. You find an artist alley, and there's so many indie artists in there. Yeah. And I hear this kind of story all the time of like, hey, maybe I didn't know how to do it, or maybe nobody else was doing it that I could find. I just played around with it until bam. And that's where you get this really vibrant, exciting, unique, new stuff. And that's what I'm seeing here. Once again, it is on Kickstarter. It's called Hologram Hunter. You can look it up if you go to Kickstarter. 3D sci-fi graphic novel. It'll say that afterwards, or show notes once again. So the other thing that I'm struck looking at this is it really has a video game vibe.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a negative way, like, you know.
Oh, I don't take it in a negative way.
No,
I'm extremely inspired by video games. That I might even, dare I say, be more inspired by video games in my comics than I am other comics. And that's
cool. Okay.
That's a weird mentality to reconcile. And it's something that I sometimes feel kind of guilty about. It's just like, no, I make comics, I should be inspired by comics more, but I like what I like. And again, talking about depth and talking about building these sets and making worlds that I want people to fall into in video games, I just love being in a cool place.
Right. That immersive feel of it.
Yeah. I could be just standing, not even doing anything in a video game, but just being able to feel the sense of space and place and mood in a location is something that I just find so incredibly awe-inspiring. And my goal is to make comics that feel like you can explore. And I don't even necessarily know what that means. That's this dream that I'm chasing, is I want to make books that you feel like when you move from panel to panel, from page to page, that you are almost turning the camera around and moving through a space like you would in a video game, like you are in this place, but in a book in your hands.
Like I said, when I'm looking at these images and I see how the 3D reveals things, there's something else going on the page. I think you're getting there. And I think this is a great beginning to that. Like, there's a vision here. So I can't stress enough that I want people to support this. I think people really deserve, or you really deserve them checking it out, sharing it, getting people excited about it, and share this podcast, because this is what people need to hear, is what your vision actually is behind it, because as soon as you say it, I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it. So yeah, share it.
I'm glad that comes across.
Hi there, I'm Rob Southgate and host of this show. This is the trailer for TTRPG Insider, a podcast about, you guessed it, tabletop role-playing games. Actually, it's more specifically about the amazing people that create TTRPGs. Each episode, I'll interview someone who is involved in making the games that we all love to play. You'll hear from world builders, artists, musicians, writers, marketers, people that run the Discord, and really just anyone involved behind the scenes. And this isn't just a promo show talking about how great their games are. I want to hear their stories. How they got to where they are, what's their history with gaming, any tips they can give, and hopefully some fun stories about their lives. So, let's make this official. Welcome to the TTRPG Insider Podcast. TTRPG Insider is a celebration of an industry that I love. I started this show so I would have a chance to talk with the people that you might meet at a convention if you're lucky enough. So grab your dice, throw on some headphones, and come with me on this journey. Oh yeah, make sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts to hear our first episode when it drops this week. So what about the tiers that you offer on this? What would you say we don't have to go through every one of them, but what would you say are some that people really are going to be excited about?
So the sort of the main tier of the whole reason of this Kickstarter is for $35 Canadian. You get the graphic novel that comes with 3D glasses and a postcard that's in 3D as well.
Which is a super cool looking postcard, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's kind of the main goal is like, I just want to make this book a reality and shipping it with 3D glasses, of course.
Yeah.
That's the main goal of this Kickstarter. And that gets you the book and a little extra postcard as well. And if you're one of the first 15 backers, you get those 2 free buttons as well.
Those 2 buttons. Yes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But what I'm super excited about is the higher tier at the $110 level, I believe, is these 3D printed figures. And this is super cool because I built I illustrated this book with making in sets that I built in a 3D program.
Actually built sets in the 3D world. Got it.
Yes. Yeah. There are 3D. Yeah.
So you're doing like 3D modeling in order to build,
exactly.
And then you built a page off of that.
Exactly. So I had these 3D characters that I made in this to illustrate this comic. So then I thought to myself, oh, can I print these? And turns out I could through which is crazy.
They're really cool, by the way.
Thank you. And it's really cool because it's not like an approximation of the character like from the comic, like I'm taking the illustration and I'm interpreting into a sculpture. It is the character. It is the same model that's in the book. It is 1-to-1. And so it's of the hunter, who's the main character in the virtual world, with a really cool sword, and his robotic companion Whiskers, who's this robotic floating cat figure. That you get both figures in a set with a cool box as well. That you actually, I have them. If you'll allow a brief,
do your thing.
Interruption. So here's.
The sizing is good on it too.
Yeah, really, really good size, and they're printed in resin. So there's a lot of extremely fine details, and like the thinness of the cape on it is extremely well constructed.
Yeah. I also see that at the $300 level, you can get
it comes in a box that I designed.
Hand painted when you get to the $300 level. And
that's right.
Those hand painted ones are cool.
Yeah. Hand painted by a friend of mine who does a lot of miniature painting himself. And so, really awesome job, and wanted to help me out with this, and did some cool cell shading kind of effects on it so that it looks like it has painted on lighting and shadows.
Yes.
Casted onto it and the extra details. Super cool stuff.
Yeah. Let's give him a shout out. It's Kelsey Guinan is the one who did the painting. So, okay. So we know some tiers that you're going to want to get in. And I really want you to look at the figures, because the figures are so awesome. I think you could have Kickstarted for the figures and you would have gotten people excited just for that. Those are really cool. What about stretch goals? Because here's how I look at this. Yeah, you're going to hit your goal. Okay, 3,000 Canadian, no problem.
Don't get my hopes up.
That's how I look at it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what about stretch goals? I know you probably don't want to reveal everything, but you got a couple of stretch goals in mind?
I have 2 stretch goals, which because this is my first Kickstarter, and so I want to keep things fairly straightforward and just focus on the main campaign. But then I have 2 stretch goals. I think the coolest stretch goal is the highest one, which is at $5,000, which is custom printed 3D glasses. So that is some extra detailing, artwork, this kind of digital effect, and texturing over the glasses, so it's not just white paper glasses.
Yep.
And then it has the Hologram Hunter logo on the sides. And the main reason that I have that as a stretch goal is because the manufacturer who does custom printed 3D glasses is a minimum quantity of 500. So it didn't really make sense because I really wanted to do that, but it didn't really make sense to do that just base campaign.
Right.
because I don't know if I'm going to print 500 books. So printing 500 glasses would not make the most sense.
But if you hit that goal of 5,000, chances are you're probably going to need 500.
Exactly. So that was kind of where my head was at with that. So super excited if we can do the custom printed 3D glasses. And then the other stretch goal, which is a little below that, which is at 4,500. Again, these are Canadian prices. Is for a custom layout webcomic style. I am offering a digital version of the comic at the lower tiers, at the $10 and $15 tier, I believe, is not physical but digital version of the comic, and that's just the comic as you would see it in the book, but just digital format.
Sure.
But I also want to do again, if I hit this goal, because it will take extra work and extra layout, is do a more webtoon style, webcomic style version where all the panels are stacked one on top of the other and you can scroll more easily through it.
Sure.
But then I also want to experiment maybe with some small animation touches. If I want to, do a bit of like parallaxing effect with speech bubbles or something like that. I have played around a bit with adding small animation or animatic touches to illustrations. So that stretch goal is also for an opportunity to do a bit of experimentation and add a little extra spice to the digital version of the comic.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. Once again, we'll say it again. It is Hologram Hunter 3D. It's on Kickstarter. The goal is 3,000 Canadian, 2267.60. Got to get that 60 cents in there. US. And it launches tomorrow or today if you're listening tomorrow. We'll figure that math out. Friday, June 16th at 6 p.m. is when it launches.
6 p.m. Central Time. Yeah.
Yep. So get in early. In fact, if you hear this before that point, like if we're listening in the morning, jump in. You can go to the link and you can sign up to be notified when it goes live. So you can jump in there and try to be one of those first 15.
Yep.
So I think this is fantastic, Scott.
Thank you so much.
You've got a great product here. I can't wait to see what you do next. And that's the other thing. I want you to get above that $5,000 mark because that's what fuels the next project.
Absolutely.
That's what keeps you going rather than we always try to do the minimum, like, hey, it got it paid for and it's out in the public.
Yeah.
Let's shoot for, now I got a little money to do the next thing or to build more animation or whatever. And you're a guy who's got vision. We want to fuel that. So definitely
my brain is already like 5 books ahead of where I want to go. I've got so many stories I want to write, so many more like experimentations in comics and cool ideas, cool worlds I want to explore. So
let's start Scott Ford Comics by really knocking this one out of the park. Scott, thank you so much. Oh, hey, where can people find you and interact with you?
So my main website is scottafordart.com. And that's where you can find a lot of art. You can also find a lot of my previous comics that a lot of them are free to read just on my website. And from there, you can also find my socials. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and have a small YouTube page. You can find the links on my website there, scottafordart.com.
And also in the show notes. All right, Scott, thank you so much. This was great. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Scott, for coming on the show and sharing this great game with us. I love everything about Hologram Hunter, and I believe you will too. The Hologram Hunter Kickstarter campaign ends on July 17th. Follow the link in the show notes so you can support this Kickstarter and so that you are supporting this amazing project. If you or anyone you know has a crowdfunding effort about to launch or currently going, send them my way. I love to share cool projects and to help people reach their goals. You can connect with me through the Go Fund This Podcast Facebook page or via email directly to rob@smgpods.com. You can find a link to this Kickstarter and any other links that we discussed in the show notes. Go Fund This is a production of Southgate Media Group, hosted, edited, and produced by me, Rob Southgate. Thanks again for listening to Go Fund This.